Chris in Appleton, Wisconsin. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind?
Yeah, got a question about this whole maybe upcoming pandemic and your theory of more people need health care. I don't see how those two things are really related. You could have 100% coverage for everybody, but there's only so much supply, which really there's not any of this.
So let me get this right. You don't understand the relationship between a bunch of people getting sick and it being a good thing if you have a healthcare system that covers everybody who gets sick.
Not if you don't have the medical supplies to give to them.
Okay, so now you don't understand the relationship between how a for-profit pharmaceutical industry that, by the way, is really, certainly they're for-profit, but most of the first-line drugs, most drugs that are developed, most new drugs that are developed, and by new I mean not taking an existing Prozac, fluoxetine molecule and adding one hydroxyl group to it and saying, we've got a brand new drug, when really it's just a slight tweak in an old drug. But when you're talking about the actual new drugs, they're almost all developed by the National Institutes of Health or funded by the NIH. What you don't understand is how a for-profit
that people need.
Pardon?
This drug that they're giving to the guys, we have to keep it such frozen and all this, that wasn't developed by the government.
Yes, it was. The drug that is stopping Ebola was funded by an NIH grant.
So is public sector money
in the private sector
business?
That's correct. And
but
at the level of
that for the money though, right?
At the level of
all of our best technology is built by private sector stuff with public grants. Like Lockheed Martin, that's pretty much all publicly funded, but it's a private sector company.
Well, if you want to see an example of it, look at the internet. It started out as DARPANet. It was publicly funded, and then the private corporations took it and ran with it. But my point is that you have, and this is what how do you say Eve? Thank you, YVES. It's a name I can't pronounce. What Eve is writing about over at nakedcapitalism.com is that there are companies that are saying, big pharmaceutical companies, sure, we could develop an Ebola vaccine. We could have developed that years ago. We have the virus. We know how to make vaccines, but there's no money in it. It's a disease that exists by and large in West Africa where people don't have money to spend $100 or $1,000 a dose on vaccine, and it's not showing up in the first world. And even now that it is, it's fairly easily contained. So there's still no money in it.
Well, now that it's here, you think that there's going to be a lot more money in it and there's going to be a lot more vaccines out there? Is that what you're hoping or your thought is?
Well, it's not a matter of hope. It's a matter of simple math. When you have a healthcare system that is not driven by what's best for the people, but is instead driven by what's best for profits for private hospitals and private pharmaceutical manufacturers, then basically you have the prescription for death and destruction. It's a reactive system rather than a proactive system. It's a system that says, okay, now there's a marketplace. Now we can make a profit because wealthy people in the United States are starting to get sick, and they will pay for this. And that's a screwed up system, Chris. It's just a screwed up system. Thank you for the call. I'm sorry you don't understand it.